If you enjoy this content, please take a moment to rate and review it. Your feedback will greatly impact our ability to reach more people. Thank you.
How's it going?
It's going well. I don't know. We had our selection committee this week, which always is like a ton of prep work, but then we made some decisions I'm excited about. Once it's over, I love the selection committee process.
Yeah,
but the prep work is a lot of work getting ready for it.
Yes.
Anyway,
a lot of work.
good.
A lot of work. Well, congratulations. I know that's always...
I got to land the companies.
You got to land... Yeah. But selecting them is kind of half the job. It's kind of half the job.
And every time one of the selection... A friend of the pod actually pointed out something that I didn't know. Like science-based thing that she's really good at that saved us from, not doing a good deal. Not doing a bad deal.
Not doing a bad deal.
Yeah.
Not doing a bad deal. Well, that's why you don't just trust your own judgment only,
That's
right? Well, that's great. For me, it has been a good but very busy week. Lots going on within a couple of the portfolio companies. That's good, and has kept us sort of having lots of strategic conversations. So that's exciting stuff. And then, just trying to keep track of everything that's happening out there in the world. I mean, California is just really intense. We've got, Catherine's out there, Natalie's out there. So we've got, several colleagues that live there, which is really nice to kind of get like what's actually happening on the ground. Both of them
Not
had
the
great
full media.
weekends.
Right.
Like awesome brunches and all sorts of stuff. So, it's kind of like, okay, good. So like the whole city is not on fire. Okay, great. This is good to know, But yeah, just trying to parse through it all. It's a more complicated news landscape than it's really ever been. I mean, one of the things I'm starting to I don't know if you saw, but literally today, the CEO of Uber was doing something where he was backing the big beautiful bill, and obviously that there's a whole bunch of backlash that sort of came from that, and so it just got me thinking, like, I don't think it was at all on my bingo card, 5 years ago, right, that there would be room for two of everything because the world would splinter politically at the product level, right? Like now I'm like, okay,
people are not going to use Uber because of whatever he says.
This is going to be huge for Lyft.
Yeah.
It's going to be huge for Lyft, and like, X and Blue Sky, right?
Yeah,
I mean, like we're just in this world where literally, the whole Tesla thing.
Yeah.
We're in this world where it's more than ever your spending choices have some type of political edge to them, and it creates an opportunity for there to be multiple players in a market where typically it would sort of get consolidated down to one.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's what you were thinking about. What I was thinking about is, I don't know that it was on my bingo card that a tech executive's opinion about some legal new law would matter to me or anyone. I mean, that's not really what he's trained at. I don't see why it's important, but I know it is. So.
Yeah. So anyway, and today some really sort of unprecedented things happening at the Department of Homeland Security event. Where Senator Padilla was arrested, and it's by the time this show goes live, 40 more things will have happened because that's just the speed that we're at this point, right? But thankfully we are going to talk about boring healthcare stuff for the next hour.
Yeah, I think that I'm looking forward to that. And it is true that there's going to be, I think, unfortunately, depressingly, there's going to be unprecedented sort of destruction of social norms and, civil discourse every week. There's
maybe
new lows,
every day.
new lows.
Maybe every day.
Right.
Maybe every day. Right. Unfortunately. Okay. So look, we're going to do our healthcare talk.
Yeah.
Though.
Yes.
All right. So let's go ahead and dig in. Let's start with the economy. And we are seeing that hiring was slowed in May, 139,000 new jobs. Unemployment rate held steady at 4.2%. The market is happy that it's not worse.
Yeah, so all the economic news is going to be positive today. So, some of the other news around the world is not so positive, but hiring slowed, but we created 139,000 new jobs in the month of May, and the unemployment rate didn't change, and that's pretty good. I mean, I was expecting worse. People were expecting worse. I think it's pretty clear we're having a slowdown, but not a bad recession, certainly. Maybe not a recession at all. And so it's really positive. I mean, would I like to have 200,000 jobs? Sure, but it was a pretty good report, I think.
Yeah, agree. And also
30,000 healthcare jobs.
Yeah, I do think the point you made about what freaks out the economy and the market versus what doesn't is pretty important, right? Like last week when Elon and Trump were fighting, the market freaked out, totally freaked out, right? This week we're having all sorts of norms being broken. The stuff that's happening in California is teetering on some really weird things, and we look up at the ticker and it's all green, right? So it's just interesting what moves the market, right? And then almost like, what does that say about the market as an indicator of the well-being of our society? Right? Yeah, it's just an interesting observation.
I think the market is a really bad indicator of the well-being. But it affects healthcare policy and our portfolio, so we end up covering it. But
of course.
But I don't think they're that connected.
Yeah, agree. All right. Muted May inflation defies tariff fears. Consumer prices rose 2.4% over the year with a lower than expected month-over-month increase. This is the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah. So this I was expecting because we have really good policy people, starting with Emily and around Hedgeye. Inflation has bottomed, so it ticked up slightly from 2.3 to 2.4, but it's not exploding to the upside. Very minor increase, and seems like a pretty good combination of reasonable job growth, low inflation. It's not at 2, but 2.4 is pretty good.
It's fine.
So I think that's part of the reason the stock market is happy, that we're getting this Goldilocks good combination of things. The fear about tariffs driving inflation has not manifested yet.
Yeah, and this result I think definitely boosts Trump's argument to Powell that he needs to cut rates, right? That what he is introducing from the tariff negotiation perspective is not material to inflation, and to get more capital flowing and to get the economy a little bit more liquid, rates need to be lowered. So this does support that argument. This does support that argument.
There is there might be 15 central banks around the world that are cutting. Everyone's cutting.
Yeah.
And I think the U.S. is going to have that same sort of deflationary fear if we don't get in front of it. Because I have that. But the Fed is always slow to act. And
Jerome Powell's Fed in particular.
Yeah. And, it's hard for me to criticize from the stands. It seems like a pretty good combination of, we're not having job losses. And so I think it would be good for him to cut, but I think probably that's my bias always.
Yep. Bonds rally, stocks slip after inflation data. Treasury yields drop after CPI report shows tariffs aren't making prices spiral.
Yeah, so we just sort of talked about this, but the 10-year yield is what I have been really focused on. And so, it coming down to 4.36.
That's
pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
So, I mean, getting below 4.5, approaching 4.25.
When was the last time we saw that kind of drop? Because it's been pretty stubborn here for months now.
Yeah, it has. It has been stubborn for months, and it could be a short-term thing, but I'm hopeful.
Yeah, that's interesting. Let's make sure next week we circle back and see if this drop has held, because that to me is more.
That's the most important.
That's the most important thing.
The stock market will follow that.
That's right. That's right. All right, moving into VC world. Axios Pro exclusive. Ryght AI, spelled RYGHT, raises seed to shrink clinical trial timelines. I just talked about a company that was focused on shrinking clinical trial timelines. So I think there's a lot of desires in the pharma world to kind of get the clinical trial world to be much more efficient than it currently is. It's a hard space. Clinical trials are really hard. Yeah,
and especially this space. I mean, I think AI has a lot of promise. What they're trying to do is work on the enrollment. Like, that's the hard part. That's the bottleneck always.
But it's everything in there: the identification, selection, activation, getting people to actually show. After they show, getting them to follow up with the appropriate data.
Right.
Like it's just.
Yeah, people have been working on that. I mean, I've been a VC 25 years, more than 25 years.
It's hard. It's a hard space. Yeah. So anyway, they raised $3 million seed round, and they're planning a $20 million Series A in the first half of next year. So that's pretty ambitious. Foothill Ventures led the seed round. Not familiar with them, but I will log them for future reference. All right. Another Axios Pro exclusive, Autonomize AI, gets $28 million for health agents.
Yeah. So the agent, trend is now healthcare. Valtris is the lead investor, which I think I really like.
Yeah, we know Anna.
Yep.
With Cigna Ventures. Okay.
Yeah. So it's promising. I think there's a lot of competitors in this space.
Yep. But Valtris helps.
Yeah. And they do have a human in the loop, which I think is valuable in healthcare, especially in the early phases. I think it's going to be important to have that.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing that is not human in the loop that's functional today. But as our conversation with Tarun pointed out, like that's not long-term viable, right? So, but this is the viable model today. So, $28 million Series A. That's a good size round. Autonomize is how you say it. I would imagine, right?
Yeah, I think that's
okay.
Right.
Autonomize AI. I want to make sure I get that right for the future. Probably a company we're going to need to watch and we'll be hearing about just because Anna doesn't play. Emory Healthcare invests $10 million in Guidehealth as it ramps up value-based care collaboration. This is from Fierce Healthcare.
Yeah, so this is a population health tool, and Emory's getting stronger into that. So I think good on both sides. Good to see Emory get more active, and happy for Guidehealth. So.
Yep, agree. Good to see the investment. It'll be interesting to see how this actually does play out. It's good to see Emory leaning into
value-based coordination has been challenging, but it's good to see them still working on it.
Yep, agree. Another Axios Pro exclusive, Somnee raises $10 million for smart sleep wearable.
Yeah, I'm not sure we need another sleep wearable, but they're bringing one to market.
Okay, didn't we have a company called Somnee?
We have one. We have a better one called Somnee. It's spelled better. I'm invested in it.
I was about to say. I was like, hold on. Yes. What's going on here?
Somni.
That's ours.
It's ours.
Okay.
That's the better spelling. This is Somnee.
Okay. But ours is not a device company.
No, because I think there are plenty of devices. Yeah. Ours is more the
software.
Sweet. And sort of helping you understand what your device is saying and giving you coaching and other tools.
Yeah, that was my understanding.
Improve it.
Okay.
We do take in data from a bunch of devices, but we're not trying to build our own proprietary device, mostly because I don't think that works, and we don't have the same money Coastal Venture has. So
but this is competing with Aura, but like this is not like Aura's kind of a prosumer device, right? This is $10 million seed extension. So, they're still definitely burning and also not quite at the place where they could justify a Series A. That's what the round tells us.
And it's like a headband, sort
thing.
of form factor.
Yeah.
Which I just think it's hard.
Yeah. And then also, like, I'm seeing here, they've got, they're in discussions with leagues. I mean, as someone who's got like pro sports stuff, like that always worries me, just because everyone gets attracted by the leagues. And, that's hard. That's hard. The league's got everybody coming to them. You know what I mean? So it's like you're not in a strong position if you're trying to get any of the leagues to kind of do something with you.
Yeah.
All right. Another Axios exclusive. Eli Health raises $12 million for hormone tracking. So this is, continually growing interest in the hormone space. Peter Attia just had a big sort of episode about women and sort of the lack of hormone therapy that has happened for women. There's a lot of talk about TRT for men.
Yeah.
But it's been sort of out of vogue for women.
Perimenopausal. And there's a Humans podcast that came out a year ago, really debunking the big announcement that it caused cancer 30 years ago was not true.
Right. And so you had a whole generation of women who
are suffering for no reason.
Yeah. So anyway, this is initially focused on cortisol measurements, saliva-based hormone testing. So starting with cortisol, they can deliver results in minutes via the app. That's pretty interesting. $8 per test on a 12-month plan. That's a subscription. So seems pretty affordable if you're one of these worried wealthy people who likes all the biohacking things and you want to add, in addition to your glucose tracking and your blood work that you're doing, you want to add in hormone tracking. And guess what? These people do.
Yeah.
$8 a month is pretty affordable, I think, to get that done. All right. Moving into policy. So Marty Makary, who is the head of the FDA, wrote a article in JAMA called Priorities for a New FDA. I think our bias is on the table. We both kind of like Marty. We don't know him, but our experiences with him. He came to the healthcare fellows class. I just find him to be a pretty sharp guy, generally speaking. And, skimming through this, I think you took a deeper dive on it, but the skim that I did of it, it's like more of the things I would sort of expect from him: accelerating cures, removing bureaucracy, leveraging the AI that we've been talking about for so long, and then obviously there would be the parts that are aligned with MAHA, right? So the healthier food for children. That's kind of a that's that part.
I feel like he put that at the end
he
just
literally
to be
stuck
nice
that
to
in
his
there.
boss.
Yes, he stuck that in there for RFK Jr. But to me, the big thing here is recognizing that the FDA has, for a variety of reasons, become a bottleneck and has actually, we've talked about it, like a lot of investors just won't even do anything that's got FDA risk because of the FDA, right? Not because they don't believe in the founder or the promise of the thing or the potential future viability of the device or whatever the therapy is, especially digital therapies, right? But it's more just, you don't want to deal with the FDA. It just is kind of a black box and you have to hire a consultant. So making it more efficient is great, but also leveraging AI. We've been talking for well over a year now about all the advances that are happening in AI, where we can now, model out protein development. We can, the synthetic data can replace lab tests. There's all sorts of things we can do with AI now that can advance drug development, therapeutic development, device development, and right here, Marty is saying, yes, let's leverage AI to do all those things. It's proven it's going to work. And that's awesome. That's really exciting.
Yeah, I agree completely. There's two points I'll make sort of building on that. One is I thought it was really interesting that he published this in JAMA, not in the Wall Street Journal op-ed page or the New York Times op-ed page.
I like that.
Because he's going after the scientists.
Yes.
He wants the scientists to know that please come to the FDA, bring your new innovations, and we're ready.
Yes.
And then, yes, he is positioning it as using AI to make the FDA process more efficient, more effective, work through many more applications more quickly. And then he put in there also to alleviate some of the animal testing that I think is really important. And There's no reason to torture animals when we can do it in silicon. So anyway, I thought those are just the 2 points to add on to you, but it was a good piece of work. And he has to deliver on this, but it seems like a really good outline of where the FDA could go.
Yeah. Moving from Marty to Bobby, Bobby Kennedy Jr. has continued his streak of public writing. So this time in the Wall Street Journal's opinion pages. I do have to just maybe call out, I hadn't really thought about this before, but this is a more star-studded list of leaders from an HHS perspective than we've ever had. It's kind of ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of ridiculous, and they are all using their brand and their pen in the right channels for them, right? I mean, even Marty, who's not as well known, he's a published author and a keynote speaker. So like, if you're in the space like us, if you're a healthcare innovation wonk, you know who he is. Yeah. Obviously RFK Jr. is much, much bigger. But I mean, is this like the third opinion piece that he's published that we've covered in
It's
health?
at least the third. It's at least the third.
Right?
There was one.
There's one in Fox
before Trump got elected.
No, I'm talking about since. I'm talking about since he has been in the seat. I think there have been 3.
One on Fox, 2 in the Wall Street Journal.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think part of being a successful politician, I think, whether I like it or not, I'm not sure I like it. You have to be able to communicate directly to the people on social media, in an op-ed piece, or in JAMA. JAMA was not a peer-reviewed. We should make that point. It was their discussion portal.
Yeah,
or whatever. It's their analog to this.
That's right. No, he wrote an article.
Yeah,
It's not a peer-reviewed paper.
Right. And I think that's part of what you have to be able to do to survive and get your message out in today's media landscape.
Yep. All right, so tell me about this piece.
So RFK Jr. Exited the entire advisory committee about vaccines.
Yes.
So 17 people. I can't say I was very surprised. He has been critical of this particular committee for years, but he did move much more dramatically than I expected. So I thought he would. The more traditional thing is to replace 1/3 of the committee each year.
Yeah.
So you have kind of a rolling committee. And it's just much more aggressive, but in line with the whole Trump administration to not worry about what is traditional customs. And so he had everyone leave. Shocked a lot of people. And it certainly was not. It was not traditional. It wasn't sort of in the norm.
Yeah, I mean, the part here that I would sort of call hard to reconcile is the byline here. We're reconstituting an advisory committee to avoid conflicts of interest. I mean, I understand the conflicts of interest he is referring to, right? I definitely get those. But there are multiple interests. There may be opposing interests. There may be divergent interests, right? And so to say you're fully trying to avoid conflict of interests is sort of an interesting way to present it. First of all, you are ignoring that you have avoided all previous norms related to how the selection of this committee happens. You've taken a very hardline unilateral, use of power. It's certainly your power and authority to do so. Mm-hmm. But you're also clearly sort of saying it's all going to be done my way, and I don't care about incorporating anybody else's views into that process, right? So
I think I agree completely. I'm not going to be able to name the quote, but you and I were talking about this a long time ago, and there's a good quote like, "No conflicts, no interest."
Right.
Like
right.
everyone who has the right skill set and knowledge
It's
to
conflicted.
serve on this kind of committee
It's conflicted.
has some kind of conflicts, whether they're financial, emotional, political, their friends, someone they went to school with.
How else do you get the experience that validates your reason for being there?
Right. So I think it's important. Disclosure is important.
Yes,
But
of
I
course.
think that byline is not real. That's a made up thing. He doesn't like how these people are doing the job of this committee.
Totally.
He has not never, but for many years he hasn't thought were doing a good job, and he's replacing them. He's going to bring in other people that have a different set of conflicts, maybe ones that he thinks are more aligned with where he thinks the committee should go, but there's no one that could serve that won't have any conflicts.
Right. And so, when we go to this Fierce Healthcare piece that lays out the new 8 members that he announced today. So yesterday was the news about the 7th. I
Right.
mean, basically it was a 48-hour window, right?
I think it was Monday he got rid of everybody.
Was it Monday
And
he
then
got rid of
Wednesday
everybody?
he named everyone.
Okay.
Although this story is today, but I think they came out yesterday.
I saw it for the first time today, so it could have been yesterday. But basically,
Very fast.
within a week,
Yeah.
everyone's gone, and now a whole new group of people
I mean,
are here.
I think it was clear to me. I think he had the list ready. I mean, it wasn't like he was making it up on the fly.
Clearly. So I mean, the link is in the show notes. So for anyone who wants to, get more detail, as you said when you were selecting this piece, Fierce did a pretty good job of, not going too deep into opinion or background and just sort of saying.
Yeah, I reviewed like 30 articles to try to get to one that was reasonably balanced, not one way or the other.
Yeah. But stating the facts, this article does note that 4 of the 8 people that are selected for this new group, for this new committee, are all listed in the dedication of his book, The Real Anthony Fauci, which attempts to undermine the former health official's work and motivations before and during the pandemic. So avoiding conflicts of interest?
I don't think we are avoiding conflicts of interest.
I just don't think that's.
I think we are putting in.
That's just not real.
We're putting in a set of people that see the world in a, complementary way to how Robert Kennedy Jr. sees the world. And I'm hopeful. I mean, they all do have, I think, reasonable pedigrees of different expertise in different areas.
Sure.
And I'm hopeful they'll execute the job of the committee. But I don't think anyone could look at this and say there are no conflicts. Maybe there are no financial conflicts, but there's many ways to think about conflicts of interest.
But I think the reality is that when you are looking to do the kind of unilateral, clean slate, reboot that he's done, doesn't even really matter what words you use. I mean, it doesn't really matter because the action speaks louder than any words that he could write.
Yes.
And the the president of the AMA, Bobby Mukamala, his quote that's listed here in the Fierce Healthcare article. I'll just read it because I think it's material. The AMA is deeply concerned to learn that new members have already been selected for the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices without transparency and proper vetting to ensure that they have the expertise necessary to make vaccine recommendations to protect the health of Americans. So he's not saying that they don't have that. He's saying they've been selected without transparency and proper vetting. Right. So he's not saying they don't have that expertise.
Yeah.
It's just like, who got to make the call, right? We urge the administration to reconsider the removal of the 17 ACIP members who have deep expertise in vaccines so physicians can continue to have confidence in ACIP's recommendations, which have for decades helped them make recommendations to patients about vaccination. We will closely monitor the developments of ACIP and encourage the administration to recommit to maintaining vaccine access for all Americans. So it's pretty interesting, right, where you start to have like a divergence between HHS and the AMA, like in a meaningful way, where it's like who is influencing what the docs are doing and saying, it's kind of that point that Tarun made in our last conversation. You know, it was a weird reminder for me, but the Joint Commission is not a federal agency. It's not a federal body. You know, it's an industry body, and healthcare is made up of a lot of industry bodies. You know, that create a lot of the regulations and the rules that the industry abides by. And so there is this interesting question that starts to get laid down, where is this advisory committee going to lose credibility amongst, you know, the body physician of America?
Yes. I mean, there's no question about that. Yes. The question, I think, is, so without proper vetting, my view, which is, you know, just my view, is that Trump and then Robert Kennedy Jr. believe that they won the election and they then get to put whoever they want on this committee. They did their own vetting.
Yep.
Now, the AMA is an independent body. It is not subject to elections, or not the same kind of elections, and it can make its own decisions. I'm hopeful that the committee will behave in a way that engenders respect and credibility, but we won't know until they start having meetings and start behaving. There's no question that it was not done according to custom, and that just that by itself would make groups like the AMA very nervous.
Yes.
And then throwing things around like removing people because they had conflict of interest, and then having a bunch of people that Kennedy clearly has known for a long time. It's just not 100% transparent. So the transparency thing.
This is not transparent at all.
Yeah, that's right. Kennedy did not run a transparent process.
Yeah, subjectively
now,
not transparent.
He maybe has the right to do that, but it doesn't engender trust and credibility. And so hopefully they will behave in a way that keeps our vaccine policy producing positive public health, but we won't know until they start executing it.
Yeah, that's right. All right, moving on. Hospitals rail against inadequate pay bump, mandatory team participation in IPPS comments. It's Fierce Healthcare. Yeah,
so there's a comment period after CMS puts out their payment rules. Mm-hmm. It was a pretty low 2.4 pay raise. You know, maybe inflation is 2.4 this month, but it's higher than that in general.
Yeah.
It's pretty difficult set of, payments. And so it's not surprising that the, hospital and physicians, AHA, are upset about it. But they have the chance to comment, and they have provided a lot of comments.
Yep. So both the AHA and the Fed of American Hospitals are basically aligned on that.
And the essential hospitals, all of them.
Yeah, of course, the essential hospitals. Yeah. I mean, they're in a world of hurt right now. All right, Wall Street Journal. Moving on to payers. Humana to back curbs to Medicare Advantage billing practices. So Humana may be trying to get on the good side of all the attacks against Medicare Advantage billing practices?
Yes. Humana is trying to get in front of the criticisms about upcoding or maybe aggressively diagnosing things.
Yeah. I mean,
whether that will work or not, I don't know. I don't know if they have a track record of doing that or not, but they're saying that they're supportive of curbing that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, right? I mean, the kind of knock that came to United's door around upcoding, and we're going to talk in a little bit here about CVS, now being, accused of the same thing. In both of those enterprises, it's a part of the business, but it's not the business, right? It's a meaningful part of the business, but it's not the business.
Medicare Advantage, you mean?
Correct.
Yeah, right.
Sorry. Right. For Humana, it is the business.
Yeah.
Right. And they are somewhat new to the game with what they've been doing with CenterWell, but they've got the same Payvider platform in place, right? And so I think you've already seen the kind of damage that can happen to this, and I think this would be like a lights out moment for Humana if they were to get railed for upcoding. So this seems like the exact right positioning for them. I don't even see it as competitive. I see it as like defensive and sort of trying to survive.
Yeah, I agree. It's smart. No one supports those kind of practices. And Humana getting out in front and saying that they are in support of curbing that kind of practice is an easy win for them.
Yeah. And necessary.
Yeah.
Necessary, right? All right, Cigna rolling out new tech tools to simplify the member experience. This is CVS Healthcare.
Yeah, so Cigna is rolling out tools, AI-based, kind of your coach, help you navigate the system. I think it is also smart. They have a very different business than Humana, but they are trying to make mostly employer-based plans. They're trying to help them with navigation and members, if they are happy or with the tools. Cigna, I think, could maybe gain market share against other groups that are, let's say, distracted with their other lines of business.
Sure. Healthcare dive. HHS watchdog accuses CVS Medicare Advantage plan of upcoding. So this is what we were just referring to. The vast majority of diagnosis codes that CVS subsidiary Coventry submitted to the CMS between 2018 and 2019 weren't supported by patient documentation, the HHS OIG found.
Yeah, and this is an accusation, so we'll see how it plays out. But this is even a step further than United was accused for, because United was accused about going to the patient's home and sort of like interview them very carefully to document every possible thing that they could have.
Right.
This charges that CVS upcharged without the documentation, which is, I think, even a step worse. But it's all negative.
Yeah, and it's an audit, and now we'll go through the whole.
Yes, but there's no good result for CVS. I mean, this is a bad. Going through this process is not what you want to be.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it gets to what we were saying when the first story came out about United, that this is a Payvider issue, not a United issue, almost certainly, right? Because it's that closed loop ability that you have when you've got both the provider and the payer sort of, on two sides of the same balance sheet.
Right.
And it gets back to why Humana is saying, hey, we're all for curbing this, right? You know. And
Cigna. I mean, Cigna has Evernorth, but it's not the same scale.
It's not the same. And they're kind of out of the government pay business anyway. Yeah. So, all right. Fierce Healthcare. The layoff tracker, two key additions, both on the health plan side. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. They eliminated 600 positions. That included 220 layoffs. There were a bunch of open positions. They just shut those down. And then they actually also laid off 220 people. They have a goal of lowering administrative expenses by $600 million over the next 3 years. And so this was the next step in that process. And then Molina also laid off basically their Virginia health plan employees. They're exiting the market. We've talked about the government pay groups looking at the economics and just exiting markets, and that creating less competition, which is less good for, the government pay based residents of certain states, and this is one less payer in the state of Virginia.
Yeah, they lost the Medicaid contract, and so they still have some business, but not significant enough to keep it open. So which is not good for coverage, but it just is what it is.
Yep. So hopefully those employees can find work with another plan that was able to pick up where Molina lost, but in the meantime,
hopefully,
hundreds of folks in the healthcare world lost their jobs. All right, for patients with rare blood cancer, new drug offers relief. People with polycythemia vera often need regular blood draws to keep the disease in check. So this is a new treatment for a very rare type of blood cancer where people they're just generating too many red blood cells from their bone marrow, and these rare diseases are often great targets for coming up with therapies. They're hard. They're hard, but because they're rare, you get some leniency from the FDA.
Yeah.
Especially if they're rare and deadly, right? Then you get some leniency from the FDA, and you have this captive audience. It's like all sitting there waiting for it, and is going to lobby with their insurance company to like, please save my life.
I think CMS is friendlier about reimbursement.
Yes. Especially if it's a breakthrough, and you can now sort of take a deadly disease off the list of deadly diseases, right? So, so this is
so it's 50 out of 100,000, so a small population, but really valuable for those patients.
Yeah. So this is a new drug from Protagonist Therapeutics and Takeda. Takeda's the distributor, and good news. So let's see how this continues to progress. But this is not yet out in market, but everyone seems to be very, very optimistic about it.
Yes.
All right, and then in the continuing expansion of chronic disease drugs, finding new use cases that are passing clinical trials and getting sort of more economic viability. We normally talk about GLP-1s, but SGLT2 inhibitors. Everyone may not know what those are, but you've certainly seen commercials for Jardiance and Farxiga. Those drugs are now sort of being embraced as longevity drugs, as well as just glucose management drugs.
Yeah. So glucose causes diabetes and kidney disease. And so this drug, I think, helps the body expel glucose more efficiently through the kidneys. And so people that are wanting to live longer and be healthier and I think metformin was the first thing to managing your glucose more carefully, not having swings at all or very limited movement, I think has been shown to, I think it sort of replicates the calorie restriction benefits without having to fully go on a fasting diet. That's my belief. So anyway, yes, longevity folks are now utilizing these SGLT2 drugs.
Yeah, what's old is new again. You talked about metformin, and I feel like that was what I knew Peter Attia for.
Yeah, that was
in the
like
beginning,
15 years ago. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and now he doesn't talk about metformin at all anymore.
Right.
Like he's 100% just like exercise, just exercise. So I just think it's interesting how this stuff just kind of keeps cycling back.
People
and forth.
want an easy solution. Exercise is hard. So
yes,
I'm not sure that easy solutions work as well as exercise.
Right. Right, for many, many reasons, right?
Yeah.
All right, into the AI rundown, starting with the Wall Street Journal's coverage of IBM, who has a roadmap to a fault-tolerant quantum computer by 2029. IBM back in the computer game?
Yeah, I mean, I think IBM is good at what they are mapping out here, which is building a computer the size of an entire building. But instead of it being a mainframe computer, now it's going to be a quantum computer.
Yep.
And they have ways to make it fault tolerant, where I think the quantum bits affect each other and you have to somehow shield them and have redundancy. So 2029, having a working, enterprise scale quantum computer is pretty fast. So that's also what caught my attention, the timing of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess given all of the, chips that have sort of hit the scene over the course of this year, this is becoming less
shocking.
Yeah. Less shocking. So, but good to see IBM putting a stake in the game. It's a quantum is one of those step change revolutions in computing, and so if IBM wanted to sort of get back to their glory days, this is probably the right place for them to focus. I bet that's 4 years out,
right?
But might get them somewhere back close to where they were in the past. Okay, the next story is also Wall Street Journal, and it is referring to something in East Tennessee. So it's talking about Oak Ridge, which if you're not from Tennessee, you may have heard of the Oak Ridge Boys, or but you may not know that Oak Ridge is a huge technology hub, chemistry, nuclear power,
especially anything energy,
Oak Ridge is really sort of known for. Yeah, that's right. Solar, wind is all sort of, being worked out of Oak Ridge. But this is a cool story about a company that was sort of backed by a single founder, not a single founder, but single benefactor, who really sort of believed in this evolution in nuclear as sort of the future. Important that this is very against the grain because, America has been anti-nuclear in sentiment for a very long time. It feels like just in the last 5 years, we sort of turned that around. And AI is now supercharging this whole belief that we need to get nuclear back online in America in a meaningful way. But this little itty bitty company that was being backed by this single person, he died. Their checks ran out, and just a real story of resilience of the team, where the money wasn't coming in, and these people started making all these crazy personal sacrifices to keep the company going. I mean, you just never hear that happen anymore. And then boom, in comes a VC, drops 40 plus million on them, and now they also have the tailwinds of nuclear being, highly desirable, and they may be sitting on, a massive, massive company.
Yeah, it's a great story in Oak Ridge that needs a win. I mean, Oak Ridge was incredible in the, atomic age when
the Manhattan Project,
60s.
Yeah.
But this company, Standard Nuclear, they make the fuel. It's like little pellets, I think the size of a poppy seed is what they said, that are uranium kernels that go into the small molecule reactors that are much safer. It's a much safer way to do nuclear. So I'd like to see, I think we need the small molecule reactors to begin getting regulatory approval and getting produced. One of the companies that's doing that is also in Oak Ridge. But there's other ones around the country. And when they get produced, this is the company that's making all the fuel.
Right.
So they're going to do well. They went with LPay for a while, but they'll do very well in the next few years.
Yeah. I mean, they had to know they were onto something if they could just kind of make it to the other side.
Yeah. But without AI coming up the way it has,
right,
the nuclear impetus, it
wasn't there.
It's not there. We needed to get desperate enough. We're lazy. We have oil and gas. It's easy to get it.
There needed to be a new consumption driver of power.
Yes.
Right. And that's what AI is. It's a new consumption driver.
Yeah.
All right. Google is extending employee buyout offers in a push to raise AI spending. So this is more proof that Google is getting super, super focused on AI and going around to other departments that may be a little bit more in a mature state, where, maybe the market has been largely saturated and it's mostly like a small increment, kind of a Netflix thing, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to grow your user base by very much, but you can increase pricing, add on some extra products, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas AI, it has, from the ground floor to go up for them. And also search is being cannibalized by AI simultaneously.
Right.
And so the imperative here for Google is to get their AI game supercharged so they can compete with Sam.
Yeah. And VCs know the story, but not everyone will know it. The innovator's dilemma has been studied since the 90s. Clayton Christensen at Harvard Business School created it, where when you are the dominant player in industry, it's really difficult to disrupt yourself and move as quickly as the innovators do. And so VCs like you and I back a small startup and they move much more quickly. And it has been traditionally, I think the startups are undefeated in the long run. Google is doing things to try to buck that trend. Laying off or giving employees buyouts is essentially like helping them move on. In Chrome and Android and search, these are significant cash flow positive, cash cow businesses, and moving them on in order to reinvest in AI, where they are one of 5 companies, but they're not the dominant 90% share. I don't remember a company doing that this aggressively. And I give them a lot of credit. It's clear from the outside that they need to make these kind of changes, but it's really hard on the inside culturally to say to your friend who's at search that, is running a team there, you got to give your entire team a buyout option.
I think the unique thing about Google, which I would love to see the innovator's dilemma, sort of model, analyze the Google OpenAI story from a case study perspective, right?
Yeah.
Because the unique thing about Google is Google invented the tech that is cannibalizing it.
Yes.
And it was behind in getting it to market.
Yeah.
Right. So it was a completely self-inflicted wound.
I mean, that is the textbook story of the innovator's dilemma, right? Like, I'm not going to get it right. Polaroid invented the technology, but then Kodak destroyed them. I might have that backwards.
Yeah.
But what's different about Google, I think, is that they still have founders one of the founders is still there. Sergey Brin is still there. And he has either the special preferred share or enough ownership that he is very influential in the company.
Yes.
And I think that he's not doing it for the money. He wants to make the world better.
Right.
That is a different mindset than a lot of incumbents companies have.
Okay. So I don't want to take too long, but where I thought you were going to go, to Xerox and Apple. And
that's a better story because we know that one very well.
Yeah, and the graphical user interface, right?
Yeah.
That's where I thought you were going to go. And I guess the difference is Xerox was not in the GUI business. Like Google was in the AI business.
Yeah.
They just were not in the unleash AI to the world business.
I don't think they believed it was safe and ready.
And also, they didn't have a good answer for how they were going to manage the cannibalization of search themselves.
Right. So, I think at Xerox PARC, they invented the Windows GUI interface and the mouse. And they thought it was small and cute and a toy. And didn't bother with it.
They didn't believe in personal computing.
Yeah. And I think it's pretty analogous in that set of facts as Google invented the TPU, the processor, and they invented the attention.
Transformer.
And the attention is all you need. Paper came out of Google.
Yes.
But they
bought DeepMind. So
they understood how important it was, but they didn't go to market quickly until Sam Altman and OpenAI did.
That's right.
And so it is different in the sense that they probably have the best depth. They definitely have the best depth of AI research team in the world. But they hadn't unleashed it yet until they saw it turned on by this upstart competitor, OpenAI. And then it took them a little while to get their act together and figure out how they were going to turn the ship, but they've turned it now.
I think that's right. I mean, there are still issues with Gemini that I'm waiting to get worked out, right? But it's clear they're very much in the game. It's just they're not Google in the game. They're just a player in the game.
That's right.
They're not who they are in search in this particular game, right? They're who they are in cloud. In this game,
Yeah.
And that's not good enough. That's not going to be good enough, right?
Yeah. It's any person's game to win right now, but I would bet on Google if I was going to pick one.
But
I don't have to pick one right now.
But they're not the brand.
They're not the brand.
They're not the brand.
No, ChatGPT is by far the brand.
That's the brand.
Yes.
Yep, that's the brand. All right. Oracle shares jump as the CEO targets dramatically higher revenue growth. So this is about the cloud business at Oracle, which, the revenue growth, we got to remember, it's on a small base, right? They're definitely way behind.
They're fourth by a long
way.
Yeah.
So they're going to be able to, clock a bunch of multiples because they're now putting a lot of attention and focus on their cloud, which is good. And I think they also can make some discounts and be attractive and all sorts of other things. And also they probably have more they probably have more capacity to offer people, because Azure has got to be awful to try to get capacity on right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They
like real, not you and I doing a little pet project.
Right,
I'm talking about
right.
real capacity
Yeah.
on the cloud.
Yeah. Google's the only one that has capacity.
Yeah.
Of the three top ones.
Right.
So two reasons to include this. One, I think it's an AI story because
I agree.
The growth is AI. And then secondly, I believe that they're really focused on healthcare in the corporate suite.
Agree.
And so they're the one to watch, like, what are they going to do in healthcare AI, and what's that going to mean for us, if anything?
Very much agree. All right. This was kind of my story of the week, because I had not seen a chart that actually laid out how bad Google's AI rollout on search was impacting. But I have to admit, like, when I use Google now, I kind of stop at the AI overview, right?
Yeah.
So Wall Street Journal has this article here. News sites are getting crushed by Google's new AI tools. And it's not all the sites, because many of them have their own organic traffic sources that are not just Google. But the whole idea of the blue links, the 10 blue links, like, that's effectively dead now. Like, even if you go on Google and you look at the real estate, the AI overview takes up like 2/3 of the page.
Yeah.
You only get like one link on the native. You have to scroll to get more than one link. That's not an ad paid for link.
Right.
Because the AI overview just takes up all of it,
Yeah, I mean,
crazy.
that is the right thing for Google to cannibalize search and move people to start using AI. But it is really having bad downstream effects to news, journalism agencies. Yeah, so this chart here, people that are listening, since 2022, Business Insider went from 110 million visitors to now monthly to now 50 million.
I mean, that kind of crater
Cannot survive that.
No. First of all, the
3
trend
years.
line is just brutal.
Yeah.
Just brutal. Now, to be fair, it is ticking up a little bit here, but like the overall trend line is a 50+% haircut.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah, and so the question that I have is not, I mean, this is over. I mean, the news publications, unless they have a strong subscriber base, so like the Wall Street Journal has a strong subscriber base.
They're flat.
Yeah. But most newspapers and websites do not have that. They're not going to exist in 5 years. And so what will the inputs to AI be? Like, who is going to be doing the reviews of some new TV that then the AI can ingest if we don't have a revenue model for journalists to do it? I don't know that we have that answer right now.
No, look, I think we don't. I also think it's worth noting here, Wall Street Journal was flat. And to me, one of the things this says is Wall Street Journal had an iconic brand for a very long time, has had a very strong subscriber base for a very long time, and did not feel the need to get into the SEO game. They just kept publishing high quality articles. And so they didn't
monetize the SEO traffic.
Right.
And now they don't have that exposure.
Right. Whereas Business Insider was an SEO farm.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. And now that SEO is basically dead, they're dead.
Yes.
Right. So that's kind of another aspect of this, right?
Yeah.
But here's the deal. You can't make another Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
Right? Like that brand cannot be replicated quickly by some innovative new company.
Can't be replicated at all.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how you would build it.
So your ultimate point is the media business is going to be something completely different. And we don't understand what it is actually going to be. But whatever it is, it's going to be very, very different than what it has been for the last 15 years. I mean, SEO has been a really legitimate thing. I mean, since I kind of remember, I just kind of mark it here, our city's current mayor. Do you remember when him and Scott Holdren created Sightning?
No.
So and then they created Raven, the SEO tool.
Yeah.
But that was 2006, I think, was when it did. So
Yeah.
so 20 years of SEO being like a meaningful thing, and it's pretty much over, man.
Yeah, that's right.
SEO is pretty much over. All right. Disney and Universal sue Midjourney over AI-generated princesses and minions. That's a good headline. Wall Street Journal. So, you know, Hollywood continues to leverage the courts to try to manage their innovation challenge here with AI engines.
Yeah, and I think it's related to the last story. Like Hollywood has these fears because they've seen other publications.
Yes.
It's interesting. They sued Midjourney and they didn't sue other groups because Midjourney didn't respond to them, didn't engage, didn't admit that they were causing any problem. Other groups that also are doing image generation at least made an attempt to interact with them. And so I think we're going to have more lawsuits and they'll win some, but you can't put the horse back in the barn. Like it's already over for this. The minions are out.
Yes. I agree. I do wonder if on the corporate side, this does create a nice opportunity for Adobe because they have been very thoughtful in their copywriting, licensing strategies. Yeah. And, you know, they're not going to be the sexy.
They have an image generating tool that is fully
Yeah.
copyright protected.
Yes, exactly. So it just, you know, they're not like the sexy name out there. You're not going to hear about them versus Midjourney or some of these other ones.
Yeah.
But
if you're doing an AI generated TV ad, you might want to use them.
Yeah.
Because it would be better. I mean, it wouldn't be better, but it would be as good, a little more expensive and safer, protected from.
I think the safety, right?
Yeah.
I think the trust that what you've created is not going to be, you know, content ID taken down later on is kind of, you know, kind of nice to have, right? Okay, on to Mark Zuckerberg. He cannot buy companies outright. They're already trying to pull companies out from the Meta ecosystem. But he can make very, very large minority investments and acqui-hires, and that is what he has done. He has made a significant multi-billion-dollar, investment.
Oh, yeah, I think it's $14 billion.
Yeah, multi-billion-dollar investment in Scale AI, basically to buy the founder and CEO, Alexander Wang, to come lead AI at Meta.
Yeah, so Alexander Wang is, if this goes through, going to lead the super intelligence dedicated team at Meta. I don't know if that would cover all of AI. I think it's only the super intelligence piece.
Okay.
But it's a really interesting deal because I totally agree with you. Meta would not be allowed to buy Scale AI. That's my opinion, but I think that's pretty apparent.
It wouldn't go through.
And yet they are buying 49% and hiring the CEO.
Look, they're not the first people to do this.
No, this is the second time I've seen it. But it is I mean, I guess it's legal.
Microsoft did this with Suleiman.
Yeah. And there's nothing that prevents it, but it is quite similar to them buying Scale AI.
And I mean
in all spirit, in all effectiveness.
That's right.
So it is,
and probably the investment serves as liquidity for the investors. Right?
I know it does. They're distributing the whole thing.
Yeah, right.
They just raised $2 billion last year.
Yeah.
They don't need the money for operations.
Yeah, no, that's it. That's great. That's a 7x.
Yeah, so Accel and the other VCs are getting liquidity and they keep their ownership, but it's half as big.
Right.
I guess what I'm struggling with is that if let's just say the FTC, it could be the Justice Department, if they would block Meta acquiring Scale AI because it would impair competition or something similar to that, why would they let this transaction go through? Isn't it going to do the same thing?
Well, I mean, I think you know the answer to this because I know your view, which is the government tries and tries and tries to create certain outcomes in the free market via regulation, but the incentives drive creativity, and that's what we have here, right? A creative deal structure that does not quite trip the wire.
I mean, I'm in favor of acquisitions happening.
It doesn't quite trip the wire.
I'm not trying to stop it.
It's not an acquisition. It's not an acquisition. It's a minority investment.
Yeah.
These things have technical terms, right?
Yeah.
It's a minority investment. If the CEO wants to go work for Meta, the CEO can go work for Meta.
Right.
He's not forced to do that.
That's the beautiful creative loophole, is that it's not under the purview of the FTC or Justice Department because there's no change of ownership.
Yeah. And here's what we're not doing. At least I don't think we are, unless we're doing personal vendettas, which this administration will do. But, I don't think we're going to expand the remit of these agencies from a regulatory perspective.
I hope we don't.
Well, I don't think that's on brand from a business perspective.
It's not on brand for the Republicans.
It's not on brand for Trump specifically.
Yeah. It makes, I think there might be people that are in government that are frustrated with the loophole, and I guess it's fine, but it seems like, the first time it happened, it was the first time. Now it seems like it's a playbook.
Now it's a playbook. Yes. Yeah. Now it's a playbook.
So,
well, the first time it's a playbook. It's just,
Yeah.
It's just.
I hope that
it's precedent.
I hope I have a company big enough to have to use that playbook.
RSM plans $1 billion investment in AI agents and other services. So this is a very, very large, but not a big four accounting firm. And, these big accounting firms are all in on AI.
Yeah.
Look, they should be. I mean, they offer a service. The service largely follows a set of very predictable rules. It's a lot of data parsing. You want to talk about a business that really can leverage AI and also has significantly struggled with labor. Getting new accountants to join these firms and the downstream effects of that for us, for businesses, is prices keep getting jacked up.
Yeah.
You can't get an auditor. I mean, it's really pretty problematic. So this is one of those spaces where I feel like the market was starting to break down, and AI is actually going to allow for an increase in productivity where the labor force was actually diminishing productivity, and also creating higher prices.
Yeah, I think that's right. Internally, they will use AI extensively. And then another thing that RSM is doing is they really have a middle market customer base. They're going to bring AI solutions with a credible kind of partner level of trust to middle America and help them implement some of these things. And I think we're going to need trusted groups like auditors and accountants to figure out what are the tools that are not on the bleeding edge, but are, we've been using this. RSM has been using it. They've tested it, and then they bring it to their clients, and that will be good all around.
Yeah, and also like firms like this doing this kind of work is where AI gets real.
Yes.
Right, because they're not making this kind of investment if they can't operationalize it.
That's right. Yeah.
So this will be AI agents for real, doing real work.
Yeah.
NVIDIA, climate in a bottle, opens a view into Earth's future. What will we do with it?
Yeah. I don't know what we're going to do with it, but it's cool. So I wanted to talk about it. We'll put the link in the show notes. They have used their tools to model the entire planet, including all the weather patterns. And so they can predict what the hurricane season is going to be like this year, but also what the sea level rise will be 50 years from now.
Yep.
And it looks really good. I don't know that we have an ability to see how accurate it is, but it's a showcase thing for NVIDIA to show off.
Look, NVIDIA is just cool.
Yeah,
NVIDIA is cool.
That's right. They do cool stuff.
NVIDIA might be the coolest company right now in the world.
Yeah,
honestly, they're not a consumer company, right? So they lack some of that kind of bling.
Yeah, people can't really understand it, but they do a good job with things like this.
Yes.
Giving
Yes.
illustrations of how.
Yes. And I think they paint a much better picture of the future than any of the LLM companies. Like they just seem confused, and we're going to talk at the end. We're going to end the show, but they're just out there saying all this like weird stuff. Whereas like they're delivering the actual picks at this gold rush.
Yes.
And so when Jensen speaks, I'm like, I believe what he's saying, right?
Yeah.
It's much more about the demand and what organizations are going to do with this demand, like what RCM is doing.
Yeah.
It's just much more grounded. The stuff he says is much more grounded. Okay, Musk says the Tesla robotaxi launch tentatively planned for June 22nd. So Elon stopped fighting with Trump.
Yeah.
He's apologized because he realized he has to get this damn robotaxi done, or else Tesla is in a fuck ton of problems. So robotaxi in Austin.
Yeah, and hopefully it works. I mean, they're claiming to be very concerned with safety, and I hope they are. I mean, I've ridden in Tesla. I don't own a Tesla, but I've ridden in a bunch of Teslas. It's really good. And going from really good to letting it be a taxi just on the streets of Austin is a significant change.
Yes. Well, look, the thing we know is Waymo has an advantage on the technology. Tesla has a significant advantage on the data.
Yes.
Nobody's got better data than Tesla.
That's right.
So now we're gonna see, right?
Yeah.
Now we're gonna see.
And I hope it works, and it will be great for you and I, for everyone who doesn't own one of these things, to have robotaxis from two companies that are both really growing quickly.
And just like we started the show talking about, if you're on the left, get in a Waymo. If you're on the right, get a Tesla.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't think about that until right now.
No, the politics are going to allow for both companies to make it, Okay. OpenAI releases O3 Pro, a souped-up version of its O3 AI reasoning model. So, interesting. It feels like... So, who came out with Pro first? Was Gemini the first to come out with Pro in the naming convention?
I think that's right. They have...
Or was it
Flash,
Claude?
Pro, and Ultra, I think, at Gemini. Claude has a different... They're artistic. Sonnet, Opus, and something in the middle. I don't know what the middle one is. I don't know that I think they're late to the party with Pro.
Yeah, okay.
Their naming convention is the most confusing to me. But I also don't use it as much as the other ones. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So anyway, look, I mean, I don't think there's anything more to say other than
it's very good. It's very it's very expensive to run. And I don't know, there's mixed reviews. Some people love it. Some people think it's not that different than
I guess maybe the thing to say here is that, these deep reasoning models are getting more into analyst replacers, right? Like you use these when you're trying to replace a consultant or an analyst that you would hire.
Yeah. I mean, I think I have a lot of biases. It's going to take too long to discuss, but I think you need more tools than OpenAI is offering.
Sure.
You need a reasoning model.
Yes.
But that's less important than the tooling, I think.
Yeah. You're talking about workflow, I think.
Talking about getting things done. Yeah.
Yeah. You're talking about workflow.
Yeah.
Right. You're talking about workflow interfaces. How does it plug into Slack and things like that?
Yeah. I haven't found, and actually, can't remember who it was. Someone came out, maybe Apple. Someone came out recently saying they had bad results with reasoning models when they pushed them to sort of create new concepts. So like,
it's all derivative.
Yes. Yeah. So if it's seen it, before, it can regurgitate it out. And so there's value there, but I'm having more success using AI without the reasoning just to do particular tasks that I want it to do.
Yeah.
I don't need the reasoning piece of it.
Yep. All right. And finally, Sam Altman trying to get into the Dario I'm a day game. I guess Dario keeps coming off as like the philosopher king, right, of AI CEOs, and Sam wants to get more credit for that. So he did a TED talk, and now he's written this piece here called "The Gentle Singularity."
Yeah,
which to me feels like a bite off of Robots of Loving Grace, which was Dario's thing last year. But anyway, let's.
Yeah, it's a bizarre essay. It's sort of simultaneously trying to claim that OpenAI has already created what I would say superintelligence. He doesn't use that particular word, but he says, like, for instance, I'm quoting, in some big sense, ChatGPT is already more powerful than any human who has ever lived. So,
that's true.
It's true. It's also approaching claims that it is superintelligence or AGI. It's not exactly saying that. So anyway, he's taking credit or saying that they have achieved incredible gains in intelligence, which they certainly have. And then he's saying that trust him, it's going to be wonderful for all of us and we will all enjoy it. And so the first one I think is kind of self-congratulatory, and although it's true, I don't know that I need Sam Altman's blog to tell me that. And the second part, I don't trust him at all. I mean, of all the platforms, hopefully it will be wonderful for all of us. I don't trust Sam Altman to be the gatekeeper to that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't quite put my finger on it. He, it's not that I've seen him carry himself in any kind of, just in any kind of manner that makes me feel that I don't trust him. I think it's the magnitude of the responsibility, right? The magnitude of the responsibility of the CEO of OpenAI, right? Like, this is just, it's such a big job. It's such a huge responsibility. And I just find the way that he communicates about it to be wanting of a sense of humility. And that is, I think, what concerns me, right? Like, generally speaking, you are looking for CEOs to be very confident, and you're not necessarily looking for humility,
right?
But this is not a drill, man. This is not a joke. This is it's intelligence. It's the power that is intelligence. I think he's right. I think he is accurately describing ChatGPT when he says, in some big sense, it's more powerful than any human who has ever lived. In some sense, like, not in all senses, but there is a way in which it already has done that. It already has achieved this level of power that's greater than any of us. And that is a huge responsibility. And when we see the board departures, the team departures, the spinoffs, the people who are saying that this thing is already at AGI internally and they're just not telling you, the worries that we hear about it rewriting its code. And not when I say it, now I'm talking more broadly about LLMs, rewriting their code, trying to deceive people, all of these things.
The whole nonprofit, we want to make it for profit, raise money around going for profit, then, we can't do that now, so we're not going to do that. It's not that I have any evidence. It's just I don't trust him with this level of responsibility.
It's the level of responsibility. If he was running a normal company, I'd be like, the dude's a badass, right? He's smart. He attracts great developers. He's got strong vision. He ran YC for a while, so he's been under Paul Graham. There's a million things to respect about Sam Altman, but the level of responsibility, and the other thing is, like, he's sneakily like Elon in that everyone who, I'm not trying to say this in a pejorative way, but like normies only know about him doing OpenAI. They don't know about WorldCoin, where he's freaking scanning people's eyes into an orb because he believes like we're gonna need proof of humanity because the AIs are gonna be like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's just like, and that's this is like a legitimate real thing right now. That's
Yeah.
happening. But if
Yeah.
you're not crypto, you don't know that. You don't.
Right,
You
right.
you have no idea that's even happening. So he's not running one company. He's running multiple companies.
Right. Yeah. And going back to Dario Amadea, he also has the same level of responsibility. And the way he frames it is, we need to be transparent about what the models are doing.
Yes.
And you, reader, should hold me accountable.
Yes.
And that's very different than Sam saying, trust me, it's going to be wonderful. You'll have a great life. Okay, but you'll be the trillionaire, and I'm going to be just like at your, playing with whatever toy you give me.
Yeah, that sounds like the architect in the Matrix.
Yes. And
You know what I mean?
It's
Like,
just
I don't know.
It might be a style thing, but I think there's not a lot of humility. He didn't come up through a humility-filled,
No, dude.
process.
No.
It's not his
He's not on
fault.
Earth. He's not on Earth.
Right. That's right.
He's not on Earth.
Yeah.
Anyway, read it if you want to. I mean, The Gentle Singularity by Sam Altman.
Yeah, we'll have a link.
Yeah. Anyway, I gotta get the heck out of here. I'm gonna be late for an event tonight at the Parthenon.
Oh, nice.
But
Okay.
another good show. Are you back next week?
Yeah, I'm here next week.
All right, cool. All right, see you next week.